If you are just joining us now, CBS News can report some breaking news out of the Middle East that Israel has launched some long-anticipated retaliatory strikes on Iran. At this point, it looks like it is limited to military targets. We want to go to CBS News senior foreign affairs we're going to go to CBS News foreign correspondent Ramy Inocencio. He is there in the theater. Ramy, you first said that you were hearing about some reports of explosions in Iran just about an hour ago at this point. What more have you been able to learn?
Sure. Hi, Lana. Yes, about an hour ago, we did hear those initial reports of explosions coming out of Iran's capital of Tehran, in addition to another city just west of Tehran, the city of Karaj, which is about 30 miles west of Tehran. And in that past hour, we have had confirmation from the Israel Defense Forces themselves, from spokesperson Daniel Hagari, saying that they are continuing to conduct precise strikes on what he says military targets there in Iran. And that, of course, is important because how Israel strikes Iran will then dictate on what, if any, retaliation Iran might then do in response. We do, of course, have to stress that the U.S. has supplied a THAAD missile defense system here to Israel in the past week or so that is now up and running, and that, we understand, had been put there in place in anticipation of any potential retaliation from Iran.
And Ramy, it is currently the wee hours of the morning there in Israel. It's the middle of the night, but it's also Shabbat right now, 3 a.m. Is it surprising that this is happening right now? Is there anything more that you can tell us about the timing?
It may be surprising from a religious aspect here. It is 3 a.m. here in Tel Aviv, 3:30 a.m. in Tehran. But the fact of the matter is that this retaliation by Israel against Iran has been telegraphed for the past 3 weeks, ever since Iran fired its some 200 ballistic missiles at Israel on October 1st. So the timing of this, there was a comment from Israel saying that the retaliation, the strike, would be surprising. And so to your question regarding the nature of the evening, with it being the Sabbath right now, this could be the aspect of it that Iran might have been taken off guard just a little bit, perhaps thinking that Israel would not retaliate on the most important day of its week.
It is worth noting, though, that it is the end of the holiday season there. Are we learning anything more, Ramy, about potential damages in Iran, actual areas that were struck, or is it just at this point too early to know that?
Yeah, it's too early right now. Again, we heard only about an hour or so ago of those initial strikes, but we have been seeing initial reports of explosions again in and around the capital, Tehran. There are unconfirmed reports that the headquarters and the barracks of the IRGC, that's the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, have been targeted, but that's just initial unconfirmed reports there. As the hours continue on into the early part of the morning and as daylight comes, we will see what damage has happened in Iran and what, if anything, Iranian state media does report out on this. But as we are right now at 3 a.m. in the morning, we're only hearing of explosions of reports, confirmation from the Israel Defense Forces, but no reports officially of any damage in Iran.
Well, we know you will stay on top of it. Ramy Inocencio in Tel Aviv. Thank you.
Of course.
CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie Daggett covers the Pentagon. He is there for us now. Charlie, our viewers have heard a lot of discussion about the THAAD system that the United States has supplied. Give us some background information about how it operates and why it's important that, or why it's notable that there are U.S. troops there to help operate it.
Lana, that's important. What you said was notable because this is the first time we've had U.S. troops on the ground in a combat capacity since October 7th. Yes, there have been U.S. advisors there. There have been U.S. Special Forces trying to help hunt down hostages and hunt down targets, Hamas targets inside Gaza. This is the first time you're going to see soldiers on the ground in a combat role. And the reason is after that October 1st attack from Iran, it was unexpected. The scale of the attack was unexpected. This is the largest ballistic missile attack that any country has seen, let alone Israel. And it was between 180 and 200, as Ramy said. And there were some of those ballistic missiles that got through. Now, we all know the much vaunted Israeli missile defense system. You've got the David Sling, which takes over from the Iron Dome, which is more of a short range. But this takes out short to mid-range ballistic missiles. So it was a specific weapon specifically put there and manned by U.S. forces. This is important because if they're expecting that kind of Iranian retaliation, this fills a gap there. It is a battalion, it's a group of vehicles that can fire up to 48 interceptors, which doesn't sound like a lot. But the battleships that were involved in the intercepting of the Iranian missiles, ballistic missiles, and cruise missiles on October 7th, they only launched about 12 missiles. Okay, so that puts it in sort of reference as to what this THAAD system can do potentially.
And we have just received a statement from the National Security Council. It's short, but it says, we understand that Israel is conducting targeted strikes against military targets in Iran as an exercise of self-defense and in response to Iran's ballistic missile attack against Israel on October 1st. Charlie, talk to us about the significance of coordination between Israel and the United States, both in terms of our longstanding partnerships, but also in terms of what has been, in some cases, a rocky relationship.
It has, Lana, especially in recent weeks, because as Margaret had pointed out, the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah, that literally took place while Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant was on the phone to Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, literally on the phone as that was taking place, a major escalation. And then the retaliation against Iran, of course, the United States, we've got skin in the game, certainly on the ground now inside Israel. But we have to remember there are 40,000 U.S. forces across that region on the ground through Iraq, in Syria. And then you have a carrier strike group. You've got an aircraft carrier, a number of destroyers off the coast of the Mediterranean. You've got a couple of destroyers and a amphibious group there with 2,000 Marines. You have a lot of U.S. military assets there. And the reason I mention that, not just in the defense of Israel, but if Israel attacks Iran, as it has done, it's now confirmed, as that has done, that also puts U.S. forces in the line of fire. So there needs to be a coordination between Israel and the United States, because if something large scale like that happens, then the United States, and I'm told this all the time here at the Pentagon, this is a planning organization, right? They plan for any contingency. So they have to plan for the retaliation from Israel, but then they have to expect, and one of the reasons that THAAD system is in place, that Iran will retaliate in kind. And I think it's very important to point out here, you know, the last time Israel retaliated from the Iranian attack, it was a matter of 4 or 5 days. This is more than 3 weeks now. And that, I think that addresses the scale of the Iranian attack to begin with. And now, I guess, once again, we're in this sort of hold pattern, a wait and see. Was it a limited strike? I guess at first light, we'll see what was targeted and the damage that was done, and whether this will maybe escalate to see what the Iranians will do. But in terms of the United States, they're fully forward postured, as they like to use that term, with their military capabilities and capacities, including that U.S. missile defense system now in Israel.
Well, Charlie, I'm so glad that you brought up the ways in which the United States has not just a military presence in the region, but also an obligation to all those folks that we have over there. as this proxy war between Israel and Iran has played out, and now it is not just a proxy, it is actively engaged, but the United States has also been involved in a more active way. I'm thinking specifically, as you're talking about this, about strikes against Houthi targets in Yemen that have been targeting U.S. and other foreign ships. Is it possible that in any way all that forward-facing U.S. defense planning will be implemented in any of these other aspects in the region?
Lana, let me bring up something that happened just over a week ago. Okay, so the United States has been targeting Houthi targets inside Yemen. It's been going on for some time. There's sort of tit for tat going on that the Houthis have been shooting or aiming for anyway, commercial ships and U.S. battleships. U.S. battleships are fully capable of intercepting, whether it's coming towards them or going somewhere else. But to launch a strike, to launch airstrikes, that's kind of next level. That's to go after the Houthis in Yemen itself. About a week ago, they launched B-2 bombers, B-2 stealth bombers. They don't launch those for any occasion. Those come from the United States. And the reason that it's important, these are stealth bombers, and they are capable of deep penetration, the deep bombs that can take out, in this case, Houthi targets. And without saying so much, they're saying this is sending a message to regional partners, essentially that they can fire up a stealth bomber, fly at long distances, and penetrate deep targets. Well, that's a message, without saying it out loud, to Iran. So there has been a military flex. And that's the first time we've seen that happen, that they actually fired up B-2 bombers for these attacks in Yemen. So, yes, you've got the aircraft carriers. You've got a number of F-18s there that are still deployed, F-35s that are still deployed. There's a squadron of F-22s that are still deployed. It's about as forward postured, I hate keep using that phrase, but it's the way the military use it, as it can be without another carrier strike group in the region, which may be under discussion. We can't confirm that yet.
All right. Charlie D'Agata at the Pentagon, thank you.
Thank you.